लाकया चक्मरुमलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुवैष्णवांशम् श्रीरूपां साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथामृतं तं दवीरम् सावधेतं सावधूतं परिजनं सहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवम् श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगना ललिता श्रीशाखामृतांश नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरते नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So we were discussing the characteristics of pure devotional service. Any devotee would like to repeat what are the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service? Any devotee remember what are the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service?
हरे कृष्ण guys.
Yes, Lakshman.
क्लेशाग्नि सुबदा मोक्षलभताकृत सुदुर्लभ संद्रनाथ विशेषात्मा श्री कृष्णाकर्षण.
Jai, thank you. Very good, nice. So these are the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. We'll again recite this one. क्लेश अगनि सुभदा मोक्ष लघुता कृत दुर्लभा चंद्रनांद विशेषात्मा श्री कृष्ण आकर्षणी चता. तो क्लेशाग्नि सुबधा मोक्ष लघुता कृत सुदुर्लभा चंद्रनांद विशेषात्मा श्री कृष्ण आकर्षणी च. Out of these, the first two, the Klesagani and Subhra, they manifest at level of sadhana bhakti. Moksha Laguta Krit Sudulabha, they manifest at level of bhava bhakti. And Chandrananda Vishesatma and Sri Krishna Akarshani, they manifest at level of prema bhakti. And we also discussed that how Klesagani and Subhra, they fully manifest at the stage of Nishtha in sadhana bhakti. And then Moksha Labta Krit Sudulabha at stage of Bhava, and Chandrat Vishesatva Sri Krishna Akarshani at the stage of Prema. So we already discussed about the first 4, Klesagani, Subhada, Moksha Labta Krit Sudulabha. And now we'll discuss the last 2, that is Chandrat Vishesatma and Sri Krishna Akarshani Chasa. So this is Chandranand Vichesatma, incalculably condensed bliss. At the stage of prema, the fifth characteristic of pure devotional service manifest. That is Chandranand Vichesatma, incalculably condensed bliss, the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme. So we discussed before also about different kinds of happiness. And among all the happiness, this is the supreme happiness which one can get. Like Klesagni and then Subhada. In Subhada also we discussed that how one of the characteristic of Subhada is one getting a superior happiness. But this happiness mentioned here is far greater than that happiness also. So one gets a very condensed bliss, that is Kandant Vishesatma. And this happens at the level of prema. When one has reached to the level of prema, means all anarthas are gone, means heart is purified, and that is the stage where he is able to see the Supreme Lord. He is able to see the presence of the Super Soul in the heart. And that time he becomes one with the Supreme, in the sense he identifies himself as the servant of the Supreme Lord. He becomes established in the constitutional position being a servant of the Lord. And he understands that I am not this body, I am soul, which is Satchida Anand. And that's how you get that happiness of being a spirit soul, that happiness of being a servant of the Supreme Lord. So nothing can penetrate metal because its molecular density is so concentrated. Similarly, the happiness of prema bhakti is so densely concentrated and nothing else can penetrate. No other perception or thought can even momentarily register in the devotee's mind. So they become very pure, and then only thought which remains in their mind is the thought of Krishna consciousness. This is a very exalted stage. We saw before that even bhava is so rare. Even to achieve bhava bhakti is so rare. Now this is greater than bhava bhakti. This is prema bhakti. Example of this is Madhendra Puri. We see that how Madhendra Puri, sometimes he would walk and he would see a dark cloud, and suddenly he would faint in ecstasy, thinking it to be Krishna. Sometimes he would just chant and he would forget days has passed and so many nights have passed. He would not remember that his body, he would not remember the needs of the body also. So he overcomes all this because they are infatuated with the prema. Everything they see around, they see only prema. In Valmiki Ramayana, this pastime comes after Ratnakar became Valmiki by chanting the holy names of the Lord. And this Valmiki, he became pure devotee. So in the beginning of Valmiki Ramayana, it is mentioned that how when he saw a conch bird was following a conch sea bird. So there was a sea bird who was flying, and then behind that was a he bird who wanted to go and actually have enjoyment with the sea bird. So when Valmiki saw this, so generally when we will see this kind of a scene where the sea bird is being chased by the he bird, we will get a lusty thought that, oh, they just want to enjoy. But then when Valmiki saw, Valmiki said, my dear Lord, how much prema you have filled in every living entity's heart. See, everywhere prema is there. So although he saw that scene, but he didn't see that as a lust. He saw that as the prema which every living entity has for the Supreme Lord. And that is pervertly getting reflected in this kind of situation like that. So we see that how this prema is a very high stage where one forgets everything else, and one never gets any thought of any material sense gratification. We see Haridas Thakur, how he was so immersed in chanting the holy names of the Lord. In fact, when he was staying in one hut, and there one poisonous snake also came. And the fumes of that snake was so poisonous and dangerous that the devotees who would come to meet Haridas Thakur, they would become threatened seeing the snake that he may do some harm. So the devotees express their feelings to Haridas Thakur that "Arey, this snake is around you and we feel very much afraid to come." And Haridas Thakur opens his eye and he says, "Where is the snake? I never saw it." So he was so immersed in chanting holy names of the Lord, so many days passed. He's in the same place, and it is not like a very big 4 BHK kutia. It was a small one-room kutia, and a snake is just next to him. But if I immersed, he didn't saw the presence of the snake also, and so happy in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Even when he is getting beaten up in the 22 marketplaces, he is not getting affected by it because of his absorption in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So this is a very high stage where nothing material remains. They actually become a pure devotee, and it's a matter of time. Then they go back home, back to Godhead, and they get such happiness in being a devotee of the Lord, in being a servant of the Lord, that all other happiness they appear very insignificant, like that. So Srila Rupa Goswami says that if Brahmananda, or the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme, is multiplied by 1 trillion fold, so we see Jadananda, and then greater than Jadananda is Brahmananda, and then greater than Brahmananda is Premananda. So now Brahmananda is also far greater than Jadananda, is also very high. But then Premananda, here it is mentioned, when Brahmananda is multiplied by 1 trillion fold, still it cannot compare to an atomic fraction of happiness derived from the ocean of devotion service. I mean, just imagine what kind of happiness the pure devotee would be getting in being a pure devotee and servant of the Lord. We can't even comprehend, we can't think also about it. But they get that kind of joy in serving Krishna. They get that kind of happiness. And that's why nothing material bothers them. So the remaining two references found on the page 15 show that the bliss of Prema Bhakti completely eclipses the happiness derived from any other means. So now there are 3 levels of happiness which we discussed in these 3 characteristics. So one was Subhadha, then was Moksha Laghutakrit, and then was Sandrant Visheshatma. Now we saw that Subhadha had 4 characteristics. Anyone remembers? What are the 4 aspects of Subhadha? Who would like to say 4 aspects of Subhadha which we discussed? Any devotee would like to volunteer?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu, please tell.
So could you mention that how one thing is that it pleases everyone. It attracts everyone.
First, next.
Next, one was that it attracts everyone. Then other one was that it is all beneficial for everyone. Not only attracts
it benefits everyone.
And develops the good friendly qualities.
Right.
And bestows superior happiness.
Right. So there also you see Subhadha also it came that it bestows superior happiness. And then when we discussed Moksha Laghutakrit, there also we discussed that how the happiness which comes at level of Bhava Bhakti, it is so superior that it makes even moksha insignificant. And now again we are discussing about happiness at the level of Sandrant Visheshatma. So these 3 happiness, they are at 3 levels. The happiness which we spoke at level of Subhadha, that it gives us superior happiness, that is the happiness which we get at level of a sadhana bhakti. The happiness which we discussed at level of bhava bhakti, that is moksha laghutakrit, that happiness makes even liberation insignificant. And the happiness which we get at level of prema is sandrant vishesh atma, which is very condensed. And it's like far beyond the happiness which we get at level of bhava bhakti also. like this. So now we say Jadanand, then we say Brahmanand, and then we say Premanand. So out of these three, which one is Premanand?
This Chandranand Visheshatma.
Yes, and which one is Brahmanand?
Moksha.
Correct. And the happiness which is superior to Jadanand, in between Brahmanand and Jadanand, that is the happiness which we get at level of sadhana bhakti, that is Subhadha, like this. So meaning what? When a devotee starts practicing pure devotional service, even though he may be at level of a sadhana bhakti, still he gets a superior happiness, far better happiness than being engaged in sense gratification. And that is the reason we see in Srila Prabhupada movement, Srila Prabhupada was preaching and new people were getting attracted and they were joining. So they are at level of sadhana bhakta only. But then how come they were able to renounce their job? How come they were able to renounce their family and they were able to join the movement? So they were getting some superior happiness. This is not. How come we see when devotees they come in the fold of devotional service, they give up all the bad habits. They may be eating meat or drinking something before. But then we see that they give up all this and they want to stay with devotees and they want to sacrifice whatever other things they might be doing in the hostel. So why so? Because they get a superior happiness. Otherwise, how it is possible? So that is a happiness which we get at level of sadhana bhakti. But eventually, if we get to the level of bhava bhakti, then is moksha lagutakkrit, where one gets such happiness that now the happiness of moksha also becomes insignificant. And the Sankranta Visheshatma is a very condensed bliss, which we can't fathom also, we can't think also. Like that, this is achieved by Prema Bhaktas. Like we see gopis in Vrindavan, we see great souls like Madhavendra Puri and so. They experience that condensed bliss. So here he is making this point from Srila Vishwanath Puri Thakur. He explains attachment atagir. He says that after a long time of strenuous and repeated practice, one evolves his sadhana through the preliminary stages of bhajan kriya, anarthanivati and nishtha, then reaches to the stage of ruchi and asakti. Only this sadhana imbued with asakti can reward the devotee with bhava, since it possesses sincerity and emotional intensity that will attract the Lord's favor. So this we discussed before also, that when sadhana bhakti is done with a lot of sincerity and there is an emotional intensity. Emotional intensity means lollium, eagerness, having that feeling of affection for the Lord. So when one is doing very nice sadhana, very intense sadhana, repeated and strenuous sadhana, along with he has very sincere longing for the Lord, sincere feeling for the Lord, then actually he comes to the stage of ruchi and asakti. So the happiness which we discussed, one starts practicing at level of sadhana bhakti. So subhadha, they all fully manifest at level of nishtha. Because at level of nishtha, the anarthas and everything is gone. So one can actually experience the joy of practicing pure devotional service at the stage of sadhana bhakti. And then devotee is continuing and is having that lollium, emotional intensity that I want Krishna. I can't live without Krishna. Krishna is only my shelter. Krishna is only my hope. This is emotional intensity. And sincerity in sadhana means that no matter what happens, he tries his best to regularly maintain sadhana which is given by the founder Acharya. So that's how he maintains his rigid sadhana. So when he maintains both, then he comes to the level of bhava. How? By the mercy of the Lord. Because Lord sees that he is very strict in doing his sadhana bhakti. At the same time, he is not satisfied with that sadhana bhakti. He is longing for, he is very eager that, my dear Lord, I can't live without you. So many lives I have wasted being away from you. Now your mercy is only my hope. Lord, please help me, please help me. So Lord sees this sincere longing, and then Lord bestows the mercy on that particular devotee. And then he achieves the platform of bhava, like that. Which it is mentioned about Bharat Maharaj, he was at level of bhava. So you see that it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that he left the whole kingdom just like a person passing stool and never looking back. Who was Bharat Maharaj? In our case, we may have small jobs or a small income or a small bank balance. But in case of Bharat Maharaj, he was the ruler of the whole world, and he had best of everything. And it is not that he was old; he was quite young. In his youth, he renounced everything. And then it is mentioned when he was coming in the forest by remembering Krishna, tears would come from his eyes. He was so absorbed. So we see that he is an example of somebody in the Bhava platform. So this is Sanranta Visheshatma, where one gets this condensed bliss, the happiness which is found at level of Prema Bhakti. And this is very high happiness, very high happiness. We can't think about it, and we can only pray, we can only hear about the pure devotees experiencing this condensed bliss like this. And somebody who comes to the Prema Bhakti platform, as such, the more you go above, then that much you become more stable on the path of devotion service. So most of the devotees who take U-turn, most of them, it happens at level of anartha nivarti. So before Nistha, it is a very risky stage. Any devotee may leave devotion service at any time because of the influence of anarthas and because of still having material desires in the heart. But when one crosses anartha nivarti and reaches to Nistha, after that, very rarely a devotee may go back. In most cases, he continues. And then he reaches to bhava, then it's like very rare, very extremely rare. And even if something happens, that also is organized by the Supreme Lord. So when we say that how there are cases where some pure devotee underwent certain situation or difficulty, and then in some cases we say that, oh, it was his mistake and that's why this happened. In some cases we say that, oh, it was organized by the Supreme Lord. So before bhava, whatever happens, that actually is our mistake only. But when somebody comes to the level of bhava, then Lord starts using those devotees for his purposes. So Srila Jiva Goswami analyzes this pastime Bharat Maharaj because he was on the platform bhava. So he says that actually the fall down of Bharat Maharaj was organized by the Supreme Lord. So any devotee who reaches to bhava and then prema, in their life, even if something happens, that is a special exchange between them and the Lord. And it is not actually a fall down, it is to teach the world some lesson. And then those devotees, they go back home, back to Godhead. But before bhava, whatever happens, then actually it is our mistake and it is our lack of Krishna consciousness. But the more one goes above the ladder, then that much he becomes more and more stable. And once he reaches to bhava, then now he is directly with Krishna. Now he does not have to worry, he will not fall back, like that it is mentioned. So now these stages, so till anartha nivarti, till one comes to nishtha. So till anartha nivarti, it is a great tug of war in the heart of a sadhaka. So pure devotion service, the root of pure devotion service is the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So till anartha nivarti, until one reaches to nishtha, there is a great tug of war in the heart of a sadhaka where at one place he wants to do something to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord. But then time and again his conditioned mind and his anarthas, they push him to do things for his own pleasure. And that's how this tug of war happens. Why the living entity when he comes here in the material world? So initially the living entities, they come and they are in the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And then Brahmaji wants to facilitate these living entities. So who are these living entities in the womb of Garbhodak Vishnu? These are the living entities having material desire. So now, because living entities has material desire, that is why Brahmaji gives a subtle body to the living entity and then gives the gross body to the living entity to facilitate those material desires. And what is the material desire? I want to enjoy. That is the essence of the material desire. That feeling of I being separate from the Supreme Lord and that I want to enjoy. But when a living entity purifies and he gives up this material desire and he wants to give only pleasure to the Supreme Lord, then he does not need subtle body and gross body. So when a living entity dies, so giving up of gross body is known as death, and giving up of subtle body is known as moksha. So when a living entity purifies his desire that I just want to serve Krishna, I just want to give pleasure to him, then we don't need subtle body and gross body. So that time the subtle body is taken away from us, that you don't need now. Like, when you feel cold in the winter, then you take a sweater, you take a jacket, and you put over it. But now summer has come, so you are not feeling cold. Now, because you are not feeling cold, so you don't need jacket, you don't need sweater, you have thrown jacket and sweater because you don't need, you are not feeling cold. Same way, till the time we have material desires, till that time we need subtle body. And subtle body is a way to facilitate our material desire. And then, as per the subtle body, we get the gross body. But the moment living entity purifies his desire, that actually I don't want to enjoy myself separate from the Lord. I want to serve Krishna and make Krishna happy. Then subtle body is taken, and that's the stage where one reaches to becomes qualified for moksha. So in a conditioned stage, a living entity thinks that, oh, I can become happy if I plan to enjoy myself. If you see all the materialist people in the world, how much they are busy in making plan for themselves to become happy in this world, is it not? Somebody is making plan that, oh, if I take a plot in the main city and then make a nice house for myself, then I'll be happy. Somebody is making a plan, oh, I'll study very nicely, then I'll get a good job, and then I'll be happy. Somebody is making a plan that, oh, if I get a good lady to marry, and then I can be happy. So like that, everyone is making plan that how I can be happy. But when we come to the process of devotional service, then we understand that the more we want to become happy, separate from the Lord, that itself is the cause of all the miseries in our life. So actually, we are making plan for our happiness, but actually they are not plan for happiness, they are plan for misery and suffering. And then a devotee comes to know that only way for me to become happy is by giving happiness to Krishna. He is the root of the tree. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, we are busy in watering the leaves of the tree. But after coming to spiritual life, then we understand, Babre, I don't have to water the leaves. I don't have to separately think of my happiness. I have to water the root. I have to give happiness to Krishna. And by giving happiness to him, I also become happy. So this transition takes place from I-centric to Krishna-centric. And this transition is the whole process of growth in our devotional service. So when we become purified and then we start living for the pleasure of the Lord, to the extent we live only for giving happiness to Krishna, to the extent we live only for giving pleasure to the Supreme Lord, to that extent we will experience happiness. So in one way, if we are experiencing some misery in our life, some distress in our life, that is a sign that we are not trying to give happiness to Krishna. That is a sign we are trying to enjoy separate from the Lord. That is a sign that we are not working for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So if you want to see who is a genuine devotee, to the extent that respective devotee is trying his best to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord, instead of thinking of his own pleasure, to that extent he is a genuine devotee on the path of devotion service. If we find a devotee who is ready to keep aside his own interest, who is ready to keep aside his own plans to enjoy, and who sincerely want to make an attempt to give happiness to Krishna, to give pleasure to Krishna, so that means he is a genuine devotee. You see, in case of Srila Prabhupada, he was having such a mature age, 70 years old. And if he wanted, he could have been in Vrindavan. He was already initiated by Srila Bhakti Thakur. He took sannyas and he had all the time. He knew the philosophy. He could have been in Vrindavan chanting and immersed in chanting the holy names of the Lord. And surely he would have gone back to Godhead. He was already Mahabhagavat. But he set aside his even spiritual interest also. See, one thing is having a material idea of enjoying ourselves or having our own selfish interest. Another thing is having a spiritual self-interest, that my sadhana, my spiritual life. But Srila Prabhupada was ready to sacrifice his spiritual self-interest also for pleasure of his spiritual master and the Supreme Lord. And can you imagine at that age traveling to America where he doesn't know anyone, neither he has money nor men, and it is a foreign land. But still Prabhupada took that risk that this is what my Guru wants, this is what Krishna wants. So we can see such a devotee who keep aside their own interest and they want to work only for pleasure of Guru and Krishna. They are actually very special devotees. And they become very dear to the Supreme Lord because they work for his pleasure, like this. So this transition is what we have to go through, where instead of thinking of our own happiness, we think of giving happiness to Krishna. So there are three things. One is somebody is a non-devotee, then somebody is a religionist, and then spiritualist. So those who are atheist, they don't have any faith in the Lord only. They just do what they want to do. So first category is atheist and second category is being a religionist. So being a religionist means, oh, I believe God is there. I believe God is the Supreme Lord. And that's why I go to him to ask for my benefits. So he is the Supreme Lord. He should help me in my sense gratification. And that's why I go to him. I pray to him, my dear Lord, please make me pass in my exam. Please help me so that I can get placed. Please help me so that I can get good wife. Please help me so that I can get good son. So like that, the prayers he does. And then is being a devotee of the Lord. Being a devotee of the Lord means how I can please the Supreme Lord. So this is the difference between being a religionist and being a devotee. So our parents have given some samskar to us. And by those samskars, they made us religionists. That, oh beta, go to God and ask for material benefit. But Srila Prabhupada is teaching us how to become a devotee of the Lord. So religionist means God exists for my happiness. And devotee means I exist for his happiness. And that transition we have to make, and it is not easy. We see even in the devotee circle, suppose you come for some camp and everyone got a prasad and somehow prasadam fell short and you didn't get. Suddenly that I consciousness comes. क्या ये कौन management कर रहा है? You know, इतना दूर से मैं आया. How come they are not giving prasadam? How prasadam can fall short? It is not. So very difficult actually for us to think about Krishna. You see, when Srila Ramanujacharya went to Tirupati Balaji, so he saw the way Lord was getting worshipped in Tirupati Balaji. So he thought, he is the Lord of the universe. And here he is lying alone and not getting properly worshipped. So he started feeling that the Lord should be properly worshipped. And that's how he told all his disciples that who can go, and then Anantacharya eventually agreed. Same way we see Tramanga Alvar, when he saw Ranganath deity being in the forest and not having a good temple. So he started feeling how Lord can be like this. Lord should have a beautiful temple. And then he worked so hard to give a beautiful temple to the Lord. So you see, these devotees, they work, but for whom? For the Supreme Lord, nothing for themselves. And that is the difference between being a devotee of the Lord and being a religionist. You see, Srila Prabhupada, he did everything to the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. When he brought Radha Ras Bihari in Juhu, Srila Prabhupada told them that, my dear Lord, please tolerate all the inconvenience here you are facing. Currently, we don't have much facility. We have captive in the team said. But soon we will have a very grand temple for you. And he worked so hard. He took all the risk, took all the challenge to give a beautiful temple to the Supreme Lord like this. So we see that how this is a sign how much a devotee is making progress and how much he is going on the path of devotion service, where we can see that how he is replacing his self-interest, his selfishness, his desires to enjoy separate from the Lord, to the desires to serve the Supreme Lord, the desires to make the Supreme Lord happy, doing something for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, pleasure of the founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And a devotee has to think like that. You see, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, now whenever we go to Vrindavan, all those places where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj has installed the footprints of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now you see, whenever we go, we think about ourselves. Prasadam kahan milega, accommodation kahan rahega, and then we see some holy places. But these great souls, they always think what I can do to give pleasure to the Lord. What can I do to make Lord more happy? What can I do to make Lord more famous? And that's why we see practically all those places where Mahaprabhu visited, such beautiful carvings of Lord's lotus footprints are there. And thanks and all glories to His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. Same way we see His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He was in Kolkata. So he worked so hard to get this birthplace of Srila Prabhupada. And then later on he came to know about Bhakti Bhavan, that Bhakti Bhavan is a place where Bhakti Vinod Thakur stayed. So then he started asking devotees that we need to get that particular place. Of course, before that, he helped in getting this Ulta Danga Junction place, where first meeting of Prabhupada happened with his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. Then he started for getting this Bhakti Bhavan, which was the place where Bhakti Vinod Thakur stayed. And then devotees told Maharaj, we don't have any money and difficult for us. And then Maharaj told, okay, then I will arrange all the money. But we need to have, this is a very important place. And Maharaj, how he was seeing, that from this place, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur had written that book, Life and Percept of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And from this place, he had couriered that book to McGill University in Canada. And he said from here, he had set the route in the vision of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Krishna consciousness should go in the Western world. Like that. So then he arranged all the money. And then he got it renovated. And yesterday was the opening of Bhakti Bhavan. And we see that how such a beautiful place has come. That was the place where Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur stayed. And that was the place where, when they were digging the foundation, Kurma deity came. And then Bhakti Vinod Thakur handed over that Kurma deity to Vimal Prasad, that you worship this deity. That is the place where Jagannath Babaji Maharaj also would come. So Jagannath Babaji Maharaj has written in his book that whenever I will come to Kolkata, I will stay in the house of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Why? Because he only knows how to serve Vaishnavas. So on the first floor, he made a separate room for Jagannath Babaji Maharaj. And then there he would stay. And the spiritual master of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, I am forgetting the name. Anyone remembers?
Vipin Bihari Prabhuji.
Vipin, not Vipin. Mostly I think something like this, Vipin Bihari. So obviously Jagannath Babaji Maharaj was very exalted devotee, and Vipin Bihari he was also a devotee, but he had some differences. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually he told Vipin Bihari that he should drink the water which has washed the lotus feet of Jagannath Babaji Maharaj. And he made his guru drink the water of Jagannath Babaji Maharaj, lotus feet. And then after that, Vipin Bihari also became a great Vaishnava, like that. So we see that how these devotees, they have always this, that how we can do something to glorify our acharyas, to glorify Krishna, to make them famous, and their whole existence is for that purpose. And that is the difference between them and a conditioned soul. On the other hand, you see a conditioned soul is always thinking, मेरा 1 BHK, 2 BHK कब होगा, कब मेरा स्प्लेंडर की जगह पल्सर आएगा. उनका, these are the only desires they have. But those who are great souls, their desires are how to make Krishna happy. Same way, His Holiness Sarnath Maharaj came to Vrindavan and he saw the condition of all the ponds, that all the ponds are in a very depleted condition. So Maharaj expressed to Gaurang Prabhu that we should do something. So then Gaurang Prabhu became a part of this Braj foundation, and he also entered into one Braj development, some societies there, government society. He entered into the members of that particular society also. And then they got this renovated. You must have seen Sankarshan Kund, which we go on the way to Govardhan. And they got this Pili Pokhar and more places they are getting renovated. Recently, Gaurang Prabhu became chairman of that government body also, who is taking care of the development of Vrindavan and Govardhan. So you see, they are working very hard to renovate the holy places, to make Krishna very happy, to see that how Krishna consciousness can spread. So when we see this, then we can see that these are the genuine devotees who are making progress on the path of devotional service. So in our life also we have to see that how positively we replace our material desires with spiritual desires. We can't be vacant, Prabhupada says. In one purport, Prabhupada says the devotee should fill his life with so many spiritual desires that there is no space left for material desire. We should plan so many spiritual desires in the service of the Supreme Lord that there is no scope for material desires, like that. And that's how then we make progress. So this is, and we get this particular happiness. At the last is Sri Krishna Akarshani, attracts Sri Krishna. So Prema Bhakti is so powerful that it attracts and controls even the all attractive Supreme Lord. Can you imagine? Somebody who is a Prema Bhakta, Krishna gets attracted to him. Krishna gets controlled by him. If a Prema Bhakta has said that, here this should happen, Krishna takes the anxiety to make that thing happen. Can you imagine? You'll see wherever Srila Prabhupada said that here this should come, then Krishna took it, and we see that how eventually that happened. So anything Prema Bhakta is saying is a very special thing. Krishna takes anxiety how these things happen. Even getting these places, Prabhupada's birthplace and Ulta Damka and Bhakti Bhavan, they were not very easy to get, because there were many things related to the government also and so many things. But then His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj had certain thoughts, and then eventually we see that how Krishna manifested like that. So we see that those who are pure souls, Prema Bhaktas, they become very special and Krishna becomes attracted to them. One is controlled by the attachment. One becomes attached to that which gives him pleasure. Only self-satisfied people can remain detached and thus independent. The Lord is self-satisfied, but he is attracted to his own pleasure potency, Ladani Sakti, and thus becomes attached to and controlled by Ladani Sakti. So someone may say, Arey, Lord is Atmaram. How come this Lord is getting attracted to the pure devotees? So actually, the pure devotees, they are having bhakti in their heart. And what is this bhakti? Bhakti is the Ladani potency of the Supreme Lord. The personification of Ladani potency, Srimati Radharani. So when Lord sees this Ladani potency in the heart of a devotee, so Lord is getting attracted to his own potency, his own energy. So essence of Ladani Shakti is love of Godhead, that is prema. Therefore, one who has prema can attract and control Krishna. No other process of self-realization has this potency as confirmed by Lord Krishna to Uddhava. Only by pure devotional service, following in the footsteps of a pure devotee, we can have this. Same way, Narada Muni's statement to Yudhishthira Maharaj, describing Lord Krishna as the friend and the messenger of the Pandavas, illustrate how the Lord becomes subservient to the love of his pure devotee. We see in case of the Pandavas how much Krishna was always concerned. If we read Mahabharata, there, whenever somebody would come from the Hastinapur or from the Kaurava side to meet Krishna in Dwarka, first thing Krishna would ask them was, how are the Pandavas? So although he was there, but he was always meditating and thinking about them. And we see in the whole life of Pandavas how he was there at every moment to help them and to support them. So Srila Prabhupada, he adds, so that was the position of the Pandavas. Although the Krishna is the Lord, the greatest among all the great, he remained with these loyal brothers, being attracted by their devotion, by their friendship, by their love. This is the proof how great this process of devotion service is. It can attract even the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In one lecture, Prabhupada says that these Mayavadis, they want to become God, but they can become greater than God by taking to the process of Bhakti Yoga. Right? Why? Because Krishna also becomes subservient to the devotees of the Lord. So 2 degrees of control. So when Srila Rupa Goswami described the third characteristic of devotion service, Shuddhulabha, he briefly mentioned that the Lord is controlled by the love of his devotee. Now the 6th characteristic, Sri Krishna Akarshani, also notes that the Lord is controlled by the love. Since Shuddhalabha manifests at the stage of Bhava and Sri Krishna Akarshani at the stage of Prema, we can understand that the devotee's love controls the Lord in both stages. At Bhava, the Lord bestows love of Godhead upon the devotee. Thus the devotee begins to attract the Lord. At Prema, the devotee enters the Lord's pastimes and thus attracts and controls the Lord in a personal and active relationship, as in the example of Pandavas. So in both stages, one starts controlling at level of Bhava also and at level of Prema also. So at level of Bhava, how Lord is controlled by the devotee? Because Lord gives love of Godhead, the Prema, to the devotee, and thus the devotee begins to control. But at level of Prema, the devotee takes part actively in the personal pastimes of the Lord, and there he controls the Lord, he attracts the Lord, as we see in the example of Pandavas, like this. So these are the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, and we see that it is very rare and it is very exalted position to come to the level of Prema, where one can attract the Lord and Lord is controlled by pure devotee of the Lord. But we see that how fortunate are we that our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada and our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, they have given such exalted path where one can actually achieve love of Godhead if we follow the process which is given. So our great fortune is that we are given such a high and such exalted knowledge and such exalted path by our Acharya. Now it lies on each one of us how sincerely we pursue this path, how sincerely we go on this path, and then accordingly Krishna will reciprocate. Hare Krishna. So now next time, so tomorrow we will not have class because tomorrow, day after tomorrow and next day, 3 days we are having a brahmachari camp in Vrindavan for all North India brahmachari. So next coming Monday and Tuesday, that time we will have class and we'll continue now chapter number 2. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai. So any question anyone has, they can ask me. Yes.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
हरे
प्रभु जी, जैसे अलग अलग स्टेज होते हैं, श्रद्धा, साधु संग, भजन क्रिया, नृत्य निवृत्ति, निष्ठा। तो ऐसा करके प्रभु जी, इनका कोई ऐसा पीपीटी है क्या प्रभु जी, या कहीं लिस्टेड है क्या कि इनके लक्षण क्या क्या होते हैं प्रभु जी, सिम्टम्स के लिए प्रभु जी?
स्टेजेस में सिम्टम्स क्या होते हैं?
हाँ यस प्रभु जी, मतलब सभी स्टेज में अलग अलग सिम्टम्स होते होंगे प्रभु जी, या पहचान सकते हैं, या फिर वो सारी चीज देख सकते हैं कि कैसे हम समझ सकते हैं कि हम किस स्टेज में हैं। तो कोई ऐसा लिस्ट है क्या मुझे, मतलब जिसमें हम देख सकें ऐसे?
हाँ, तो इन माधुर्य कदम्बनी दी स्टेजेस आर डिस्क्राइब्ड, और उसमें डिटेल बता रखे हैं। जैसा निश्चित भजन क्रिया है, तो हम लोगों ने वो चर्चा किया था, राइट। उसके बाद में निष्ठा से पहले जो ऑब्स्टेकल्स हैं, अनंत निवृत्ति है, तो वो सब देख के हम लोग रिलेट कर सकते हैं कि व्हाट स्टेज वी आर एंड हाउ आर वी मूविंग फॉरवर्ड। तो यू कैन स्टडी दैट माधुर्य कदम्बनी डीपली। So there Vishwanath Thakur has described all the stages nicely. ठीक है।
थैंक यू भाई। यस भाई।
यस विश्वास तो।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, प्रणाम प्रभु जी। एक मेरा प्रश्न ये था कि क्या हम लोग सटल, जैसे आपने बताया डेथ का डेफिनेशन होता है ग्रॉस बॉडी को छोड़ना, और जो मोक्ष का डेफिनेशन होता है सटल बॉडी को छोड़ना। मोक्ष और लिबरेशन दोनों प्रभु जी सेम है क्या?
हाँ, एक्चुअली मोक्ष और लिबरेशन दोनों ही सेम है।
तो तो प्रभु जी, क्या हम लोग सटल बॉडी को गिव अप कर सकते हैं बिना ग्रॉस बॉडी को गिव अप किए हुए?
नहीं, जब सटल बॉडी होती है तब हमारे पास ग्रॉस बॉडी आती है। तो अगर हम उस स्टेज पे आते हैं जहां हमको शटल बॉडी का नीड नहीं है, तो दोनों ही चली जाएंगी।
प्रभु जी, हम लोग कहते हैं भक्ति तब शुरू होती है जब पर्सन लिबरेटेड हो, मतलब कि मोक्ष प्राप्त हो गया अभी, मतलब, या फिर तो उसका
नहीं,
कैसे उसको समझ सकते हैं?
वो जो भाव प्लेटफॉर्म पे हम जब आ जाते हैं, तो उस टाइम पर हम लोग जो है लिबरेशन से ऊपर पहुंच चुके हैं। तो जब हम ऐसा बोलते हैं कि भक्ति स्टार्ट होती है लिबरेशन प्लेटफॉर्म से, वो हम बोलते हैं भाव भक्ति के बारे में।
तो प्रभु जी, जो डिवोटीज हैं भाव भक्ति के स्टेज पे, वो लिबरेशन से ऊपर पहुंच चुके हैं, मतलब वो लिबरेशन को ऑलरेडी अटेन कर चुके हैं, मतलब सटल बॉडी उनका वो छोड़ चुके हैं, या फिर वो माइंड इंटेलिजेंस ईगो वही सेम माइंड इंटेलिजेंस ईगो वही प्यूरिफाई हो जाता है, या फिर उनको दूसरा माइंड इंटेलिजेंस ईगो मिलता है?
See, when they are having material body here in the material world, and when they achieve bhava platform, so they can see themselves separate from the subtle body and their gross body. And then when they give up this body, then the soul goes to the spiritual world. And they develop such love for the Lord at platform bhava that they don't aspire for Vaikuntha also. They don't aspire for spiritual world also. But Lord takes them to the spiritual world.
मतलब वो नाम मात्र की केवल ग्रॉस बॉडी उनके पास रह गई है, बाकी वो अपने आप को स्पिरिचुअली देख पा रहे हैं, अपने आप को सटल बॉडी और ग्रॉस बॉडी से सेपरेट देख पा रहे
Srila
हैं, इसलिए
Prabhupada
उनको।
gives Srila Prabhupada gives example of like dry coconut, no? It
हम्म।
becomes totally separate from the inner shell and the outer shell.
ये सोचिए रोजी, जो माइंड इंटेलिजेंस जो ईगो से जो सटल बॉडी जो हमारी बन रही है, वही सेम माइंड इंटेलिजेंस ईगो प्यूरिफाई होके फॉल्स ईगो से ट्रू ईगो हो गया, फॉल्स इंटेलिजेंस से ट्रू इंटेलिजेंस हो गया, और माइंड प्यूरिफाई हो गया, यही सेम हो जाता है, या फिर वो कुछ कोई दूसरा हमें ईगो मिलता है, ट्रू ईगो?
Actually, these are the functions. तो जो माइंड का फंक्शन है, इंटेलिजेंस का फंक्शन है, जो ईगो का फंक्शन है, वो सोल खुद करता है। लेकिन बद्ध अवस्था में सोल को अलग से ये दिया जाता है, मटेरियल माइंड, मटेरियल इंटेलिजेंस, मटेरियल और ये सब। अदरवाइज सोल इटसेल्फ इज कंप्लीट।
ओके। तो इधर बद्ध अवस्था में एक हम लोग बीच फॉर्म में है, लेकिन जब उतर जाते हैं तो वो फ्रक्टिफाई हो जाता है सोल, और उसके उसका जो ट्रू माइंड इंटेलिजेंस को जो होता है उस पर वो फंक्शन करने लग जाता है। लेकिन जब मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में होता है तो उसको अलग से माइंड इंटेलिजेंस को दिया जा रहा है, उसका कवरिंग दिया जा रहा है, जिसके थ्रू वो फंक्शन कर पाएगा ग्रॉस बॉडी, जो उसके डिजायर्स हैं वो फुलफिल कर पाएगा।
और प्योर डिवोटी के लिए जब तक मटेरियल वर्ल्ड में भी रहता है, तो उसका जो सटल बॉडी है, जो ग्रॉस बॉडी है, वो भी स्पिरिचुअलाइज हो जाता है, बिकॉज ही यूजिंग देम फॉर द सर्विस ऑफ द लॉर्ड। तो प्रभुपाद जी उदाहरण देते हैं लाइक आयरन केप्ट इन फायर,
हम्म।
although it is iron but then it functions like fire. So
यस।
although subtle body, gross body, they are material, but they function spiritually because of that pure devotee devotion service. And then in the
ओके।
spiritual world, In the spiritual world, soul has all the functions of mind, intelligence, ego. So soul perform.
So he no more requires those mind, intelligence, ego that he had in the material world
Right.
when he goes to spiritual world. और प्रभु जी, जितने डिवोटीज वहां पे रहते हैं गोलोक वृंदावन में, सब लोग वो प्रेम भक्त ही हैं, सब लोग प्रेम के ही स्तर पे ही हैं, या फिर और वैकुंठ में भी कौन कैसे हैं, गोलोक वृंदावन में मतलब कैसे हैं, सब लोग प्रेम के ही स्तर पे हैं?
नहीं, तो इसमें क्या है, जब हम गोलोक वृंदावन की बात करते हैं तो उसमें सिर्फ वही जा सकते हैं जो प्रेम भक्ति को प्राप्त किए हुए हैं। लेकिन आप वैकुंठ जो है वो भाव भक्ति से भी जा सकते हैं। और एक और तरीका क्या है, एक है कि वेदी भक्ति आपने की, वेदी के बाद में रागुणा भक्ति किया, फिर आपने भाव भक्ति किया, फिर प्रेम भक्ति। दूसरा तरीका है, आपने वेदी भक्ति किया, वेदी भक्ति में उसके बाद में जो रागुणा भक्ति है वो नहीं किया, फिर भाव भक्ति किया, फिर प्रेम भक्ति किया। तो जो रागुणा भक्ति होके नहीं जाते हैं उनके अंदर क्या होता है, उनके प्रेम में ऐश्वर्य का मिश्रण होता है। तो वो जो भाव है, वो प्रेम है, वो वैकुंठा की तरफ लेके जाएगा। लेकिन जो रागुणा भक्ति होके हुए जाएंगे वो जो है वो उनको गोलोक वृंदावन लेके जाएगा।
यस प्रभु जी। प्रभु जी एक
तो,
यस
तो
प्रभु
ये
जी।
सब आगे आएगा एक्चुअली, रागुणा भक्ति, रागात्मिका भक्ति, हम लोग कौन सा भक्ति कर रहे हैं, ये सब आगे चैप्टर्स में आएगा। तो
प्रभु जी
बिना रागुणा भक्ति के जो भाव स्तर पे आते हैं उसमें ऐश्वर्य का टिंज होता है, दैट्स व्हाई दे गो टू वैकुंठा।
ओके प्रभु जी, ये क्लियर हो गया। प्रभु जी लास्ट प्रश्न है जस्ट कि आपने बताया कि जैसे ही अनर्थ निवृत्ति के बाद हम लोग निष्ठा स्तर पे पहुंचते हैं तो हमारे लगभग अनर्थ निवृत्ति खत्म हो गई, तो इसलिए हम लोग शुभता में जो उसका जो हैप्पीनेस है उसको एक्सपीरियंस करने लग जाते हैं अच्छे से। तो मतलब अनर्थ निवृत्ति, लेकिन वो तो एक कंटिन्यूअस प्रोसेस, वो भाव स्तर तक चलती है ना, मतलब ऐसा ग्रेजुअली?
हाँ, लेकिन क्या है इसमें बताया है कि नष्ट प्रायेषु अभद्रेषु, तो वो जो श्लोक है इसमें प्रभुपाद जी लिखते हैं कि ऑलमोस्ट,
अच्छा।
हाँ, और कई जगह ऐसा लिखा गया है कि 75% अनर्था चले जाते हैं
निष्ठा तक आते आते।
निष्ठा तक। निष्ठा पे जब हम आते हैं तब।
ओके प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण। यस पवन को।
हाँ। तो जी ये आपने जो 2 डिग्रीज ऑफ कंट्रोल बताया इसमें डिफरेंस समझ नहीं आया। लास्ट में जितना डिस्कस किया, 2 डिग्रीज
हाँ,
बताए, दोनों मुझे सेम ही ऐसा लग रहा था।
यानी इसमें बस डिफरेंस क्या है, प्रेम भक्ता जो है वो तो डायरेक्ट भगवान के पास टाइम्स में ही आ जाते हैं, और फिर उन पास टाइम्स में पर्सनली आपको दिखता है, जैसे कि कृष्ण भगवान जो है अर्जुन के सारथी बन गए, साफ साफ दिख रहा है ना कि ही इज ओन्ड बाय द लव ऑफ अर्जुन। जो भाव भक्ता है अभी वो भगवान के पर्सनल पास टाइम्स में नहीं आया है, लेकिन हार्ट टू हार्ट उसका रेसिप्रोकेशन हो रहा है। ये डिफरेंस है।
ऋषि क्वेश्चन उलझन तो बस बताते हैं कि साधना स्तर पे भी होता है, अगर भगवान में डायरेक्शन देते हैं।
लेकिन साधना के स्तर पे भगवान हमसे अट्रैक्ट उस तरीके से नहीं हो रहे हैं ना, जो भाव भक्त है उसके लिए अट्रैक्ट हो रहे हैं। और ना ही इज गेटिंग कंट्रोल्ड बाय अवर लव, बिकॉज वी डोंट हैव दैट लव। बट भाव भक्ता की स्टेज पे है। जैसे भाव भक्ता ने अगर कुछ बोला कि यहाँ पर ऐसा होना चाहिए, एंड कृष्णा टेक्स दैट एंजाइटी टू फुलफिल इट। लेकिन अगर साधना भक्ता कहीं बोलेगा कि यहाँ ऐसा होना चाहिए, तो थोड़ी ना भगवान उसको कंसिडर करेंगे।
अच्छा, समझ गया, थैंक यू।
यस बेंगलोर devotee।
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
हरे कृष्ण।
Prabhuji, I have a small doubt, Prabhuji. Means in one class I had Prabhuji Bharat Maharaj is falling down is due to like previous life offense. Is it correct or is due to Lord's hand?
Yeah, you are also true. It is mentioned by Shilaji Goswami in that part also, that because of some residual this thing. So what happens is the eradication of anarthas and apradhas, they take place. So anarthas at level of bhava, they fully go. But if somebody has done some offense, so some residual offensive thing is aparadh remains. And that only goes at level of prema. So in case of Bharat Maharaj, it is mentioned in the previous life he had some residual of aparadh offense which he might have done. But Srila Goswami says that Lord used him and Lord arranged that hold down for him for teaching us a lesson. So that can be external reason, but more internal reason was that Lord using him for that purpose. Like that. Okay, so thank you very much. All devotees. Hare Krishna Prabhupada.